Marketing Edge on TV, promoting the bright idea.
On Industry Conversation, we have the CEO, Brooks and Blake, an independent perception management and consulting firm, Taiwo Ogunwunmi. Welcome. Glad to have you.
Pleasure to be here.
What's your perception about the current growth of the PR industry, and what future growth do you see in this industry?
Two words, leaps and bounds. The perception industry, the PR industry has grown in leaps and bounds. There used to be a time when it was more about placing stories in the papers, but now it's a lot better. It's widened. Quite a number of us prefer to be called strategic management or perception managers, strategic communication managers. And the reason is because there's a lot of facets to public relations and management of reputation present day. So yes, indeed, he has grown quite a bit.
So what do we see in the future?
Well, Hydra-headed answer to that. First, you never can tell because there are a lot of factors that inform the growth for PR as it is today. So you have the advent of digital media, the social media, there's now AI, and as such, you would find that there's a plethora of opportunities that's opened up within the industry or within the practice of public relations. And so in the future, we see where there's a good relationship between machine learning and what humans do. But there's also obviously going to be a lot of work in ensuring that mitigants are brought in to manage a lot of communication that might go awry if not properly managed. There's also a lot of expectations now that there's quite a number of engagements with brands, not just locally, internationally as well. So as the expectation grows, elements within this space grows as well. You would expect that the standards also need to be reviewed from time to time. The practice itself will also have to be reviewed, but excitement, there's going to be a lot of excitement and opportunity to learn in the future with regard to reputation management or strategic communication, whether at public or private practice.
What challenges do you see in the PR industry, and how can professionals navigate around these challenges?
Some of those challenges would be, first of all, ensuring that everyone who practices strategic communication or reputation management is a professional, is a registered, known professional. I mean, today, everyone has a voice, and we have digital media, social media to thank for that. However, as with everything else, moderation is important. Moderation in communication, moderation in engagement, definitely moderation in the art of reputation management, very important. As much as businesses and individuals want to be known singularly for one thing, there has to be an art of managing that communication or the engagement that belies their presence or their growth within an industry. And so you would find that the work cut out for reputation management like ours is staying ahead of the time, so being strategic in our thinking and making sure that we're hand-holding our partners and clients in getting the best out for them on their behalf and also on behalf of the industry. You find again that our job is more or less about engaging or educating the public about different perspectives to either brands or companies as they want to be seen. So we also need to, at every point in time, be clear about what we are communicating, but also be clear about the practices that makes it legal to have conversations like that, and also in step with how the public consume information or also give back information. there used to be a time in the industrial age, or not too long ago, where communication was one way. Now you have it, going both ways. Sometimes brands spend their time responding to queries or concerns or maybe interests of consumers or customers. How do the brands now get ahead of what the consumers would ask and spend a little bit less time managing that by bringing out quality responses or quality communication that doesn't require feedback in some aspects, and then quality communication that encourages the type of feedback that is expected from the organization. I see that in the future there's going to be a lot of collaboration, maybe deliberate or non-deliberate communication on the part of producers of products or services and the public themselves. And the science behind that needs to be captured, reviewed appropriately, and then used to create some kind of formula that positively enhances value for everyone within that ecosystem.
What ethical considerations do you think professionals should prioritize to have a positive reputation?
That's an important question. I think first, it is important to know your brand very well. And then it's also important to know your audience. And then it is also very important to know the gray lines in between what to communicate and what shouldn't. A good example or a good part of this would be in the area of intellectual property, for example. And I'll link it back to how AI works today. For intelligent response, even from the technology space, there has to be information fed into the machines for them to be able to work with algorithms to answer questions. That's true. But whose information are they using? Are they using it right when we decide to make use of these materials? So there are quite a number of concerns that I think would be front and center in a short time, but more importantly around the legal aspects of using information properly. And then there's also the bit around data protection. We are in the business of data mining, whether it be figures or in thoughts or even in information. And so our ability to use that information responsibly also comes to the fore. And interestingly, I see that there are conversations that have started in different areas with regard to this. So the legal use of information, whether we're receiving or giving it out, and the gatekeeping framework that guides the use of such, whether it's in practice of PR or delivering information in one form or the other.
In situations where clients' confidentiality and the need for transparency clashes, now how do you find a balance?
Those are interesting questions, Ababumi. What jumps to mind is they need not be mutually exclusive. I say that because if there's client confidentiality, it is what it is. It's the ring of play that we work in, and you cannot sacrifice that at the altar of data protection or one for the other. It's best to gauge your responses as wordsmiths or reputation managers. You need to know at every point in time what information to give that does not go against the ethos of your business or against signed contracts you've had with clients. And then that versus data protection. So if you are giving the right amount of information out and you are not towing a line or crossing a line of contractual agreements, then you're fine. But you know, at every point in time, you need to ensure that those lines are drawn and are very clear. You know, however, I must say this as a caveat. Your reputation is everything that you have. As such, you cannot underscore the importance of being as transparent and as clear as possible, as much as you want the public or the target audience to hear. That will not be a lie, will not be misinformation, but the correct amount, and wouldn't be offensive to them or detrimental to whatever it is that is being protected.
So I'm going to put you in a very close corner. So which is very important, or which comes first? The reputation of the PR firm or the reputation of the clients?
Both. First of all, it's a privilege for clients to give you a measure of trust, for you to manage them. So if they win, you win, right? You would imagine a scenario where, as we would do in our industry, you have a pitch. There is nowhere that the client that you've managed before is painted with a bad brush, right? Because that makes you look bad. Your job at the outset is to ensure that he looks good all of the time, right? So while there might be conversations around what those gray areas are, it is important to note that your client looks good means that you've done a good job, you know, and not the other way around. You can't look good at the expense of your client. There are practices, that clear ethical guidelines that we won't cross as a business. And that has ensured our existence to this point, and will ensure our existence over and beyond. Will a client ask us to do something that we simply cannot do? If it comes down to it, those questions will be answered at that time. But remember that there are multiple factors that govern the decisions at that time. Are there things that as a business we would not do? Yes. If they're unethical, we won't. That's clear. If they're at the expense of our agency for the benefit of the client, there has to be a conversation, obviously, because this business is a life on its own, and the hope for every business owner or entrepreneur is that whatever it is that you're doing or you've invested your time in lives beyond you. That's the intent, always the intent. So no, we won't make any client unhappy, you know, at our expense, and we hope that we don't get to a point where it's also asked of us.
We've talked about AI and the evolving changes in technology.
Right.
Now, how do you adapt to these changes with your media relations?
Well, I guess with every new technology, we're always in a state of flux, of learning. With AI, it's new technology that everyone, regardless of industry, is trying out for the value area. We've had multiple conversations about how it would help in the communication space, and there are positives with DeepSeek, ChatGPT, Gemini, the works. And delving back to your issue of the question you asked about ethical use of it.
Yes.
There's that, but there's also the positive side of it, where it enhances the quality of work and frees you enough to learn other elements that technology is bringing forward as well to enhance your service. Is that a positive? Absolutely. But as with everything else, moderation and you have to use with care. But you also have to have a seeking mind, you know, to explore, to learn, to get better. There will come a time that the next generation and the generation after that will be all about machine learning and ease to getting things done. But that is because the hard work would have been done before. And then who knows, in under 50, 60 years, the practice of different industries, including ours, might be somewhat different because of the technology we have today. If you don't move with the times, you're dead. I mean, go ask Yahoo where Google is. You get what I mean? That's the thinking. That's always the thinking. And we are proud to say that we're an organization that's about continuous learning. We don't stop. If it's new, we learn about it. If there's a value to it, we take it on, we exploit. If it's useful to us, we adopt.
As data collection and usage, the regulation around it as it gets stricter. Now, how can professionals, PR professionals, get use of this data and still be compliant?
As I've seen in many industries, as we've worked with, I've identified the wisdom in policing yourself before, right? So work with an organization who have learned to be big on regulation, regulating themselves before the regulators come in. It's the same way in this case. We are always careful about the use of data. We're always circumspect a lot of times about how data is used responsibly, so that there will never come a time that when the hammer drops by regulators, which it will, about responsible use of data, we're ahead of that. So as an organization, being trained to be careful and responsible about use of data is what we do every day. I mean, especially with third-party data or clients' data, I do hope by the policies that govern us as a business that we continue in this trajectory of holding ourselves accountable to responsible use of data, even before external regulation or regulatory bodies call it out as a challenge. We know that it is possible to do work, quality work, by using data responsibly. And that is a trajectory that we hold firmly to.
How can professionals make use of data analysis and rather the analytics too, in strategic thinking and decision making? What should they look out for while taking the strategic thinking and decision making with data analytics?
There's a saying I like. It says, in God we trust, everybody else bring data. You cannot make strong, long-term, or even short, mid-term decisions without quality data. So let's park the conversation about data. After being cleaned up and it's good, use it to make your decisions, right? Now, the strategic decision making now with regard to how you communicate with people, speaking about our industry, is largely introducing all the other elements, the 5 Ps, knowing your audience, using residual knowledge to apply to the data that you have to solve either a campaign challenge or a communication challenge, whatever form it is. Bringing all of those elements together, things are important to marketing and communication, always ensures that with the right data, you come out with quality results. You can't go wrong with that. Now, the success of that result means that the strategic analysis of all the elements that you have has produced good results or memorable campaigns, if you like, because you had the right data and all the other elements around it to make those decisions. So yeah, data wins every time. Strategic decisions can and always will be done using the data, not turning your nose away from it like everything else. The easiest example I would use, and even though this technology is almost or a little bit more than 10 years old, is the Google Direct that we use for traffic today, Google Map, right? In simple terms, that is collection of data over time. Use of heat sensors and all the other elements around it to get you to your destination at the shortest or optimal time, right? If we use that analogy or that example of Google Map and how it has helped revolutionize the transport industry, and we bring it to communication or with anything else, we see how important data is in getting the best results or getting the best destination as with my analogy. You know, it's exactly that same way. You have the right data, you always will make the best decision.
Marketing Edge on TV, promoting the bright idea.
That's the much we can take. Join us for the concluding part of the conversation with Taiwo Ogunwunmi next week. I am Bababumi Agbibi.